All right, so we're now live. Sorry for the technical difficulties that we just had. It's Matt from the Greatness Everyday podcast, and I'm excited to have you listening to the second podcast. I'm excited today to interview Boomer from the organization, the movement, the challenge, 1 a week. And how this live stream is going to work is I'm going to do some introductions here in just a second, and then I'm going to go through and ask some questions. And if you have any questions as we're going through the process of this interview, please go ahead and put them down in the chat. And I would love to kind of ask those as we're going through, or if not, I'll definitely get to those by the end of the interview. I'm excited to have you watching today. So let's start out by talking to Boomer. And Boomer, I'm going to ask you quickly, who are you and what do you do?
Well, first off, thanks for having me on. And, I'm just your typical 26-year-old guy in Connecticut that just wanted to make a positive difference in the world. So last June, I came up with the idea, 2017, to start this organization called 1 a Week, which is an organization that promotes mental health awareness and positivity through random acts of kindness. So just to give a quick overview, we have people all over the world share their good deeds with us on our Facebook page and share it with us on Instagram. And we give a sponsored gift away every week. So after they share, every Sunday night, I choose someone at random to receive that sponsored gift for that week. So we started that January 1st this year.
That's awesome. So you've been doing it like 8 months about, and why? I'm curious as to why, because it's a really neat initiative. It's something that, let's say, is a great idea, obviously, but kind of why? Like, why did you start it? Because it's not something that most people are doing, right?
No, definitely. I mean, there's two things that led me to this, and anyone that's heard this story before, I apologize. I told it multiple times, but about 3 years ago, I guess this is many years in the making, unintentionally, but I went through a pretty rough breakup, and I just clearly wasn't as tough as I thought I was, and I'm big into fitness and playing sports and everything, but at that time, I was trying to watch a lot of movies, just anything to take my mind off of it, and nothing helped quite as much as doing good deeds. And I was never big into doing them before that. I kind of just fell upon it. And even if it was just for a few minutes, it just made me feel real good inside. Around the same time, I heard a study on the radio that they interviewed a bunch of suicide survivors. And I don't remember the exact percentage, but a good amount of them said that if anyone, just a stranger, had come up to them and said hello or just smiled at them that day on the side of the street, they don't think they would have went through with their attempt, which obviously just crazy to me. I'll never forget that. Obviously, I forgot the percentage, but I'll never forget that study. And just combining those two things together, I was driving one day, down the road, and everything, the whole concept of 1 a Week just came to me in the snap of a finger. It was the craziest thing. And, just thinking if a smile could, save someone's life, just trying to get more good and positive deeds out there, we could do a lot. So.
Yeah. And a smile, I guess, is something that's it doesn't cost anything. It doesn't take a big amount of effort. It's super easy to do, and it has a huge impact, like probably greater than we imagine, especially if you're talking about the case that you're talking about, where just kind of having that impact on somebody is very interesting. So I guess I can speak personally to kind of how I went about starting my journey on social media. Is similar. It was about a year ago. It was last August as well. And I just was just going through, like, I went out for a bike ride and almost got hit by a truck, and everybody thinks it's a big life or death situation, which it wasn't. But it just made me think, like, I was bummed out for that weekend. I'm like, why am I just kind of like wasting my time? Like, I have the gift of life. I'm thankful for that gift, and I have so much to be thankful for. And then that kind of spun into what I'm trying to do with social media and positivity. And I like what you said there. Why do you think, though, and this is a little bit of a deeper question, why do you think that, for me, for example, I had like almost a life or death experience, or for you, you went through a really rough time? Why do you think that it takes so many people those bad experiences or those rock bottom experiences for people to start changing their lives, whether that's they change something that they do, or they look at, like you're doing, kind of impacting their community and just everybody for the greater good. Curious to hear what you have to say about that.
I mean, obviously, I don't have the answer to that, but as far as what I'd imagine, it's got to be a multitude of things. Whether it's before you go through struggle, or just a certain thing that may really makes you start to think.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a lack of perspective, just sheer laziness. There's just so many different things that could lead up to that. And I do think when you go through a negative life altering experience, even if a lot of people would say a breakup is small, but at the same time, it is a life changing experience, especially when you thought you were going to spend your life with that person. So you really do start to, I mean, if you're smart and take advantage of the situation, you really do start to think and just really self-assess. And I think that's why, a lot of times stuff like that leads to the things that we're doing.
Sure. I mean, that's a great answer. I threw that question at you. I really appreciate that answer as well. And it's a great one for sure. I mean, sometimes we have to hit those rock bottoms to have those turn around moments. And let's jump in next to if someone was to participate in the challenge. I've seen what you do on Instagram, but maybe some of the people that aren't that are tuning in right now haven't yet. So how do they participate? Basically, simple instructions. What would you give us?
Yeah, so we take participants on both Facebook and Instagram. So on Facebook, it's simple. You just go to our page, and then you post your deed, whether that's you have a picture of it, a video, or just you don't have either. You didn't document it, so you just write a written description. I know a lot of people, before I get to Instagram, a lot of people don't like to document what they do, because it's obviously in the moment it can be very uncomfortable. So what I've done sometimes, since obviously I don't, a lot of times I do something, I don't tell everyone to stop and hold on so I could take a picture or video. But I bought someone a couple Monster Energy drinks because his card wasn't working in the store and he didn't have cash. So I didn't take a picture of that, but when I shared it on our Facebook page, I just went to Google Images stock photos and posted just a picture of some Monster cans with the description. So you don't almost knock my headphones out there. So you don't have to document everything, but there's nothing wrong with sharing it. So you can do that on Facebook. On Instagram, you would just post it to your Instagram like you would any other photo, tag us in it, and use our hashtag #1a-week, which is the number one a week.
All right. I'll definitely have to put that stuff down in the description for people watching the rerun of the video. And it seems pretty simple, I guess, no matter what platform you're on. I guess you brought up an interesting question for me there. In terms of, like you said, like people might not necessarily want to take a photo, grab their phone and tell everybody to stop what they're doing, take a photo of the good deed that they just did. And that they might at the same time, but some people I know would argue that like they're doing it just kind of to get that recognition. And I don't believe, like I believe that most people would probably be doing it because they want to put kindness out into the world. They want to put positivity out in the world, and that's great. But what do you say to those haters, if you want to use that word, or the naysayers, or the people, the negative Nancys, the people that want to focus on that side of things? Do you have any like outlook on that?
Yeah, well, obviously, I have been challenged with that question many times, so I've had lots of time to think about it, and I have two answers to that. One, well, obviously, the people that are saying that are thinking of something positive in a negative light, so automatically they are just in that moment a negative person. So no matter what you say, they're just thinking negatively. But one, let's just start with the more negative answer, which let's just say someone is, I don't believe anyone is participating with us right now that is doing it just for a prize, just off the fact that a lot of our sponsors right now are, much smaller companies they probably never heard of. But, let's just say, we start getting big names, then you'll probably get more. But my answer to that is if they are just doing it for a gift, I don't care. because when I tell you that a smile literally could save someone's life, why do I care if someone, pays for the person behind them in a drive-through for a prize when the person they just paid for might have been having the worst day of their life? So I don't care if the act is, obviously you would like it to be, but I don't necessarily care if the act is not genuine, if they're still doing the act and putting positivity out into the world. My second answer is, it is very uncomfortable, especially when you start to, kind of share and document, because it is kind of, it's out there that, oh, you're just doing it for attention. But there's just so much negativity and negative news out there. There's two ways to get more positive news out there. If the news stations like Fox and NBC start sharing it, I don't think they're going to start doing that anytime soon, because it's been years and years where they focus on, all the bad stuff happening, or we do it ourselves. We, do good stuff and let people know about it, because it inspires others to do the same. I know for a fact I have shared some of my acts, and people have done that act later on because they saw mine and thought, oh, that's such a good idea. I've done the same thing with stuff shared with us. So, it comes down to if you want to look at it as a negative or a positive. I used to look at stuff like that as a negative as well, but I've changed my whole mindset over the last few years, and it just depends on how you want to see stuff. So,
no, those are great answers and a perspective.
They sure are. They are some good
so,
answers.
Yeah, and well, you've probably been asked them a lot too. It's really interesting, I guess, to just kind of look at that whole thing. Like you said about the news, they're probably not going to start reporting on all of the great things that happen in the world, because I mean, people want to see like the big things that really pull on their hearts. I mean, kindness.
We're addicted to that. We're addicted to that negative stuff.
Right. Yeah. I guess we've just been we're addicted to it. We're used to it. We're desensitized for sure. But that shows the power of social media. And a lot of people hate on social media because they say it's just full of people that are narcissistic or showing off or something like that. But there's so much power in positivity in social media. And I guess people just have to control it rather than it control them. I mean, if you fill your feed up on Instagram, for example, with people like you and people like other people that are putting out positivity, then I mean, Instagram's a great place to be. Like my Instagram is positive stuff, gratitude stuff, fitness stuff, and like just good quality stuff. And it makes you want to spend time on it. Not too much time, obviously, but I guess you brought up a great point there for me. So I appreciate you jumping into those. Where are people participating from? Is it something that's just in the US, Canada? I mean, around the world? Where have you seen people jump in from?
I mean, the two biggest places are just all over the United States, and then specifically London. But I mean, I've seen, acts literally all over the world. Australia, just I can name so many different places I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I don't want to make it sound like we have millions of acts shared with us, but of the ones that have been shared with us, they have literally been all over the world, which is another, you bring up social media. That's another great part about it, is that we now have the ability to reach people so easily anywhere, where, 20 years ago, you couldn't do that.
Yeah. I mean, you're sitting in the US, I'm sitting in Canada. We're just having this conversation about it. And then there's people watching from who knows where. So that's really cool. With your entries, maybe what are some of the more interesting ones? Do you have any favorites?
My favorite one was one of the ones I was talking about, where I, got inspiration to do it myself. Was somebody just made some, inspirational cards, made them real cool and, creative, and sent them to a children's cancer hospital, which I love, just because, I love kids. They're just, so innocent and happy and everything. And, you hate to see someone so young going through something like that. So I did that the very next week. That was my main act of kindness, and I'm actually going to do that this week. So that was my favorite. The most frequent ones we get are paying for someone behind you in a drive-through, buying a Starbucks gift card specifically, and giving that out to people. And I don't know if you've ever seen those kindness rocks where people paint rocks with like inspirational messages and then leave them around for people to find. Those three have definitely been the most common ones that I've seen.
That's cool. And something like painting on rocks, I wouldn't be too worried about with my limited artistic ability, let's say.
Yeah.
I mean, you brought up even the most common one, paying for somebody going through a drive-through. And if I think about this, just even a few months ago, that happened to me. I don't go through drive-throughs too often, but it happened to me and just lit up my whole day. It was great. It was a great start to the day. It was morning, and it was kind of like perfectly timed. If you could time something like that, obviously the person in front of me did, but it was huge. I'm running a little bit late, needed to get to work. I teach at a high school, and somebody paid for my breakfast sandwich, and I was pumped. That was great. So, I mean, that's one thing. As you were saying some of those things, I'm making notes about kind of when I can step up my game and start jumping in on this challenge. So that's great.
Yeah.
Social media, we talked about that. What platforms specifically are you on? You mentioned Facebook and Instagram. Are you on any other platforms, or do you want to be on any other platforms eventually?
Yeah, I mean, those are two, even like specifically Instagram's easily number one for us, and then Facebook's a distant number two. We're on Twitter, Tumblr. I don't know if you ever heard of Huddle. It's a little different. Oh, you've heard of it? Okay, yeah. We're on those three. I have a LinkedIn account for it. I never use it though. Ideally, eventually, I'd be on every single platform possible, but I got a lot of other stuff going on between trying to grow the ones we have. So for now, I stick to those five, more specifically Instagram and Facebook. But as time goes by, eventually I like to build up the other ones as well, and just get on everything possible.
Great, that's great. And then jumping on people's podcasts, it seems like you've been interviewed a lot, and that's always great to get your message out there too, and on YouTube for sure. Where do you want to be in, let's say, 3 or 5 years? Kind of what's the longer term goal? Right now, you're just focusing on growing your account, I think, but kind of getting more people doing more deeds. Where's the 5-year goal?
I don't really necessarily have, like, I have long-term goals for this and visions. I try not to set, time limits for them, just because, the one thing you realize, I'm sure you've realized this too with, what you're doing is, when you first start, you think it's going to grow a heck of a lot faster than it really does. So, I thought I'd be, much further along than we are in certain ways. There's actually certain ways we're actually farther ahead than I expected. But my vision long term, I'll say, is to be the biggest, kind of organization of our kind, however you would define us. And, I'll, have my own podcast too, specifically for mental health. Actually one a week have their own clothing line, not necessarily to make money, but just to, ways to make money where I can give back, donations to places. But also I would love to be able to do something like once a year, go somewhere, a third world country, and just bring a whole bunch of clothes and other donations to them. Because obviously, they, places like that need a lot.
Yeah.
We're in the process of, I don't really want to talk on it too much because we're very, very early in the process, but trying to set up individual, challenges, the same challenge, but just individually for classrooms, in schools. So you'd be able to, I don't want to say compete, but I guess compete against yourself to do a certain amount of acts of kindness, in one semester or whatever they do in elementary schools, whatever they call them. So, we're in the process of doing that. I just want to, obviously right now, the biggest thing is just growing, reaching as many people because we are as small as we are. But as we do grow out and expand in different ways. So, we could just, reach and touch as many people as possible in whichever way they need. So if that answers your question.
Yeah, for sure. It's great. I mean, it's like you said, like you start out on social media and you think that, I mean, you're going to have 100,000 subscribers or followers or whatever you're doing. And that's not the reality for most people. It takes a long time, especially if you're into just kind of focusing on making people's lives better each and every day by simple acts. Like people want to see the big, like the sweet travel things, or like it's hard. And the biggest thing that I've learned is just kind of be consistent.
Yeah,
Just kind of,
definitely.
yeah, keep it going. And I mean, step your game up, always improve yourself. I find like with some of the video stuff that I've done and just some of the branding stuff, the stuff isn't hard to learn. There's just a lot to learn. And Google is your best friend. YouTube's your best friend.
Absolutely.
Talking to other people, just sending them a DM and saying, hey man, how did you do that? Can you help me out here? And people are always willing to help, for sure.
Yeah. No, consistency is easily the biggest thing, because like you said, most people think it's, do this for, a month and then, we take off, where reality is, it's like, you take one step, and, you're up 22 steps, and then maybe you get to leap the next 6, and, to take a jump, and then it's, you got to go up 30 more steps, and then you jump another 10. It's, and, sometimes that, consistency only needs to be a few months and people get lucky. Sometimes it needs to be a few years. But, if, like Gary V likes to say, I don't know if you've ever heard of Gary Vaynerchuk,
Absolutely. Love it.
If you have the patience and you have the talent, which, some people just don't, but if you do have both, eventually it will pay off. So
yeah, that's a great quote. And I love Gary V's stuff. I mean, he preaches just practical things that you can do, and his messages are so good. Yeah, I mean, consistency, and I think just not getting discouraged, that comes back to having the patience in that equation, I guess. Just not getting discouraged and trusting that the right people that need to see your message will, and not kind of worrying, and just keep doing your thing, for sure. Mental health, if I'm being honest, is something that I don't want to say never struggled with, but I'd say that I've had good mental health for a large part of my life. What are some of the things that you would recommend somebody that might be struggling with that do to stay mentally healthy?
I mean, obviously mental health is such a general term. So there's, I can't really specifically, so I'm going to speak very, very generally.
Right.
So this may not help you in your specific situation, but, and you're probably going to, if someone's looking for real good advice, you'll probably hate this, but it's just constantly making sure you have a positive mindset. So, what I do is, I have a whole bedtime routine and, morning routine, but in those routines, every night I go to bed, I say 3 things I was grateful for specifically that day. Just tell myself some positive affirmations about how great of a guy I am, how good looking I am. Eventually tell yourself something like that. You're going to believe it. And just, 3 things I want to accomplish the next day. The second I wake up, first thing in the morning, I say 3 things I'm grateful for in general, the same 3 things I want to accomplish that day, and just more positive affirmations. And throughout the day, and I used to struggle with this a lot, where I would always naturally think negatively about everything. And, just, I didn't have anxiety, but I would stress and worry a lot about, stuff that had happened or possibly will happen. And it's just, again, consistency. But when you start to think like that, just the second you see yourself or realize you're thinking like that, automatically, let that thought go and replace it with a positive thought. And sometimes you have to do that, 6,000 times at a 10-minute span, because, it can be frustrating when, you replace it with a positive thought and literally 20 seconds later, you don't realize you're thinking something negative again. But once you continue to, fight that and battle it and just constantly replace it with positive thoughts, it gets easier and easier until eventually you're naturally thinking, positive things, which I won't lie, it took me after about 24 years of thinking, automatically, negative. It took me about, I would say 2.5 years to working on it to get to the point where I am thinking much more naturally positive. So that would be my one practical thought in a very general sense.
Yeah, and like you said, mental health is such a wide topic, for sure. But I think that mindset has a lot to do with, I mean, anything that we do in our lives. You talked about morning and night routines. I'm the same way. I do a gratitude journal. I never was into journaling before. I never thought I had time to, or I never was interested in that thing. And you said like affirmations, I do the same thing. Never thought I'd be doing that stuff in my life. But when you just kind of take that time in the morning and the evening to identify things that you're grateful for, talk positive about yourself, set some goals for the day, and then kind of readjust and reevaluate those at the end of the day, like that's huge. Like I don't go a day without doing that now. It's a game changer for me. And I've actually gone out and gifted a bunch of those to people. So maybe that was my random act of kindness one week, is giving people gratitude journals, because I invested in myself when I did that. And it's such a good gift, whether you buy a book or you just give a notebook and people write it down or you just think about it. Gratitude for sure is a game changer for a lot of things. I've got a few more questions here. So I'm going to take this time right now just to say, anybody watching on YouTube, let us know in the chat. I see a few comments there. Thanks for watching. Let us know in the chat if you have any questions right now, and we're just going to kind of wrap things up here. So I'm going to ask you, Greatness Every Day is my profile. What I'm trying to do is challenge myself to live kind of the greatest life possible that I can, as well as challenge others and create a community of people doing that themselves. So what makes a great day for you?
For me, just I would probably say just being incredibly productive and just, growing, in every sense. So, having a great workout, maybe doing something like multiple podcasts in one day, like this. I just love self-growth and just being productive, like I said. So really just good workout, and just being able to say at the end of the day, like, wow, I got so much accomplished that day. I'm pretty simple. So, and maybe some Elio's pizza, because I love that stuff. So that's a great day for me.
I was going to throw some good food in there too, because that sounds pretty good. Exactly what you said, kind of improving yourself, getting a good workout in, and some good food. I'd be the same. I'd echo that one for sure. And let's think longer term here, is like, what is your definition of a great life? I always like asking people this question and kind of seeing what they have to say. At the end of your life, what would it take, or what would you want to have done to say that you lived a great life?
I'll speak more generally right now. I think it's pretty simple. A great life is happiness. Everything people say they want to accomplish, or their goals, is just their definition of happiness. So being able to say, on your deathbed that, yeah, you were happy, you did everything you wanted to do, or at least you attempted to do everything you wanted to do, and just went into every day, most days happy, and went to bed happy. It's simple, but I think that's greatness. Just a happy life, because that's what everyone wants at the end of the day.
Right, for sure. And greatness, what our goal is try to like impact real people living great lives, making a difference in their community, encouraging others to do exactly what you're doing. So really want to say thank you very much to Boomer for jumping on here and telling us about One a Week. We just want to end things up here by asking and telling people, reminding people, I guess, where they can find One a Week on social media and connect with what you're doing.
Yeah, so our Facebook page, I'll just stick to the two main ones. Facebook is facebook.com/oneaweekchallenge. That's facebook.com/oneaweekchallenge. Instagram is @_oneaweek, and that's the number one. So @_oneaweek. Anyone want to chat, I respond to all direct messages. So that's the best place to reach me. And I love to see all your good deeds, and maybe get a gift from it. So yeah, that's it.
Bingo. Awesome. That's great. Thank you everybody for watching. Thanks again, Boomer. I will definitely put your links down in the description of this video on YouTube. And for people watching, you'll be able to listen to this podcast here coming out tomorrow morning. So find that on the Greatness Everyday podcast. And we look forward to speaking again soon. We don't have any other interviews planned for the next few weeks, but if you know somebody that's doing something cool, a real person living a great life, be sure to send me a message and we'll get that arranged, hopefully. So Boomer, thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, man.
Have a great night.
You too.